sort of thing. So there was nothing visual that I could confirm that there was blood vessel involvement, but there could be. So if you do see a lack of color, then we know that there is an arterial component. If it's just the numbness and tingling, then we know that it is definitely a neurological component, which we got a positive for. One thing I want to note, Kate, I'll get you to bring your arms up again. So when she did that, as she was doing the opening and closing of her hands, her arms started to come forward. So you want to make sure that they actually are able to keep their arms back, because that will maximize the compression of the okay? Bring your arms back down. All right, so an indication for us doing this special test is your patient says, I get numbness and tingling down into my arms. So we want to see if bringing them into an abduction external rotation will increase that compression in the areas. A positive sign includes vascular insufficiency, numbness and tingling, fatigue, or loss of color into the arm is your positive sign, and it is a positive for vascular insufficiency and general TOS. Numbness and tingling, neurological compression, we'll know it's vascular compression if there is a loss of color into the arm. Tissues being stressed, the neurovascular bundle of the upper extremity, including the brachial plexus. Questions about provocative elevation?
No.
Okay. So there's another special test that is very similar to this one, which I'm glad they don't make us do. It's the exact same thing, but your patient does it for 3 minutes. Everybody tests positive after 3 minutes. So they shortened it, and they're like, okay, those who test positive the fastest are true positive. There's 3 minutes of doing that, everybody's going to test positive. Nobody's going to have it right. All right, no questions about provocative elevation? Okay, so we've got ADSINS, which I was trying to be nice and I actually put at the top of the notice I highlighted the A. ADSINS tests the anterior scalene. Okay, so with ADSINS, you want to, this one is specifically for arterial compression, to see if there is a compression of that subclavian artery. So you notice this side worse, so of course we would test the unaffected or less affected side first, but for the purposes of demonstration, we're going to go ahead and test the affected side only. So for this one, we're going to, in a hand in front of your patient, you are going to locate their radial pulse. I'm sorry, you are dead. Just kidding. Once you have located the radial pulse, then you will bring them back into extension of the shoulder. The reason why you want to find the radial pulse first is because if they truly test positive really, really quickly, and you bring them back here, you might already lose the pulse. So if you try and find the pulse when they're already back here, you might struggle to find the pulse. So first step, locating that radial pulse. Then you bring them back into extension. And to assess the anterior scalene, we want to bring the anterior scalene into the neurovascular bundle, which means we are going to get her to rotate towards or away? Towards me. So I'm going to get you to rotate your head towards me. And I'll get you to take a big breath in and hold it for 30 seconds. And her pulse is still going strong, so you can go ahead and breathe out. I'm not going to make you do the whole thing. So a positive would be is in that 30 seconds, if the radial pulse disappears, that is a positive. That means we are getting compression of that subclavian artery after she took that big breath in. A lot of students tend to forget about taking the deep breath in. Okay? So again, radial pulse while the hand is in front of the patient. Once you've located the pulse, you're going to bring them back into extension. Make sure you keep their arm in external rotation. We don't want to medially rotate. We want to externally rotate. You're going to get your patient to turn their head towards to push the anterior scalene into the brachial plexus, and then get them to take a deep breath in and hold it. No, pulse is still strong. Good. All right. So indication is, TOS symptoms such as numbness, tingling, altered sensation, maybe a lack, cold hands, or just a intermittent weakness in the area as well too, but mostly they'll say that their hand goes cold sometimes in amongst the numbness and tingling. Positive sign is the disappearance of the radial pulse, as I said earlier, and a positive is arterial insufficiency, so insufficient function of her artery, so the subclavian artery, and positive for TOS. Tissues being stressed is the brachial plexus, but more so the subclavian artery. Questions? 10.
It says hold it for 30 seconds to be safe. Doesn't mean you want to doesn't mean it's more accurate to do the test, or it's safer for the patient to not operate?
To ensure you've actually compromised things long enough to lose the pulse. To be safely to be safe in terms of like making sure you complete the special test. If it's a bad enough positive, they will test positive like right away. There will be no pulse. So I find that is, I think it was James who tested positive. He's got lots of muscle mass. So.
But at the same time, when we're doing this test, I feel numbness tingling with the test.
Oh, okay. So then you are positive for neurological compression, but
Yeah,
you're
but
not arterial.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions about AdSense? All right, so after AdSense for the anterior scalene, we've got Halsted's, also known as the Travell variation. And this one's for the middle scalene. The way I remember this one is, why didn't it? Excuse me. So it's exactly the same thing, except I would like to now press the middle scalene into the brachial plexus or the neurovascular bundle. So instead of her head turning towards me, she's going to turn her head away. So that's how I remember this one. Travell, the head travels away from you. Okay? Yes? Okay, so it's exactly the same thing. You're gonna find the radial pulse. Once you've found the radial pulse, keeping the arm in external rotation, we're gonna bring them back into extension. And then, Kate, I'll get you to rotate your head away and then take a deep breath in and hold it for 30 seconds. Still a very super strong pulse. Go ahead and relax. How did that happen? Okay, well, that's fine. So it does say that you do need to traction the patient's shoulder for this one. I do notice that it's not as huge a component. If they're not going to test positive with just the application of the external rotation and extension of the shoulder with the deep breath in and head rotated away, that extra bit of traction isn't going to do a whole lot. Even if they did test positive with the addition of the traction, it's not going to be a significant compression, because if it was significant compression, they would end up testing positive before you applied the traction. So technically you should apply traction as well too, but it's not, I would say, it's not one of the main components of the special test. But according to me, that's what you did. So same indications for the special test is altered sensation down into the hand and fingers. The patient might complain about the hand being colder than the other side. Yeah, loss of sensation, altered sensations, coldness. Yeah, and also pain, possibly due to lack of blood flow. A positive for TOS and a positive sign is that disappearance of the radial pulse. The neurovascular bundle of the radial plexus is indicated. So even though it is a positive for the disappearance of the radial pulse is considered a positive, because the subclavian artery passes anterior to the brachial plexus, you're more likely to elicit the numbness and tingling altered sensation because you are bringing the middle scalene, aka the posterior aspect of the scalene triangle, forward to compress on the neurovascular bundle. So it's more likely to compress the nerves first before it compresses on the artery. So just to point that out. Yes?
Do you want us to do traction? If we want to do such test.
So in order to demonstrate that you know how to do the special test in accordance to me, that's a good idea. Because in terms of board exams, would that fail you if you didn't do it? No. But would you get 100% if you were to do the special test and you didn't include the traction? Also no. Right? But then again, would you choose to do this special test as one of your two assessment techniques? Unlikely. Unlikely. So know what McGee says, but also know how to practically apply it in practice. Basically. Me for your OP, if you do it in a way that actually elicits what's necessary. Let me put it this way. If you don't apply the traction first and the radial pulse does not disappear, then you can go ahead and reapply it with the traction to see if it then disappears.
Okay.
And in which case, if it does disappear, then you know there is a positive, but it's mild compression. Because if it was a more significant compression, then it would have, then radial pulse would disappear even with the traction. Question. Sean.
But if they cannot hold their breath for 30 seconds.
So then technically the special test would be inconclusive, but you get them to hold it for as long as possible. Yeah. Any other questions?
What do you think
No, her pulse is still there. So things are still working. Any increase in numbness and tingling? What do you know?
A little bit on that one.
A little bit? So that's still technically positive. All right, lastly, we have the scalene cramp test. So this is our last special test that we're gonna do. It is the hands-off special test. Now, this special test, just so you're aware, tests for a trigger point in the scalenes. So the positive for this special test is ouch pain. So you said it was worse on this side, so of course, normally I would test the unaffected side first, or the less affected side first. For the purposes of demonstration, I'm going to be testing the affected side only. So in just a moment, Kate, I'm gonna get you to turn your head and tuck your chin into the hollow of your neck, and I would like you to squeeze.
This side.
Yes, as far as you can, tuck, 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 tuck. Any pinch or ouch on the same side here.
Yes, in the back.
Yeah, I meant in the front.
A little bit.
Go ahead and back to neutral. Where are you feeling
Right here.
it? Okay, so then that would be a positive. So that is a positive for a trigger point in the scalenes. If she were to feel it on the same side, there is sometimes a sign that happens when the individual goes ahead and they challenge one side and they actually say ouch, pain on the opposite side. That is not a positive. It means your job isn't done for special testing, but that is not a positive for this special test. So not only is it the local increase in pain over the scalenes on the side that she turned her head to, but it also is the radicular signs down the arm. The ridiculous signs down the arm. Indication is patient reports pain, trigger point referral pattern of the anterior scalene, and they could also complain about the vascular symptoms as well too. Tissues being stressed is the neurovascular bundle that is the brachial pectoralis. And if they test positive, then they test positive for not necessarily anterior scalene syndrome unless they get the radicular signs down the arm. It is actually a positive for a scalene trigger point, according to me. So this one's a super easy one. So there's two hands-on special tests, Adson's and Travell's, also known as Halston's. And then we have our two hands-off. There's our provocative elevation, and we also have our scalene test. Okay, so in just a moment, we're gonna get you to go ahead and partner. Do you have a question? Or are you just practicing? Okay.